Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton. Please remember to like us and give us a 5-star rating so others can find the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. We are on all the podcast platforms. Today, we're going to talk to Dr. Michael Blackwell. I have been a friend of his, and I hope a good friend of his, for a number of years. He is now involved with the One Health Forum, which I think is just coming of age, and we all need to learn more about it. It will help us understand how important and why pets matter to us. So let's listen to what Michael and I had to say. Hi, I'm Deborah Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict. Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton, and you're listening to the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. Remember to like us, give us a 5-star rating, and share us with your friends because it's so important for everyone to hear the information that you're listening to here on Why Do Pets Matter. So today, I am so grateful to have a repeat guest, Dr. Michael Blackwell. He has been so much to so many in the veterinary field and beyond. I'm so grateful to have him back here again. Dr. Blackwell, thank you so much for coming and tell us what you're up to now because it's been a few years since we've been on Why Do Pets Matter together.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and your listeners. These are some very interesting times for our world, and those of us in animal welfare and veterinary medicine have some particular challenges that I think are mostly solvable through intent. And we've been very intentional about one aspect of those challenges around access to veterinary care. As we've done our work, came to appreciate what is probably the biggest challenge that needs attention, and that is we look at our society, and lo and behold, we find that now almost 7 out of 10 of our households have pets in them and less than 4 out of 10 have children in them, by the way. So the family unit has been redefined by our society to include human and non-human members, biodiverse families. When we think then in terms of these families, and I'll just say pet families or bonded families, like any other family, they have essential needs from housing to healthcare to food, of course, and we can continue on with a list of essential care and services that these families need. Well, we take a look at their communities, and what do we find? And it varies across the country, but there is an infrastructure in the community, part of which is there by design to support family health and well-being. And when you really put a lens on this infrastructure, what we see is, oh, wow, they actually didn't have pets in mind when they came up with the idea of having that system or that program or that service available. And housing would be an example of that, public transportation. Yet the families of the community are these biodiverse units. So we believe, and this is transitioning now to a more specific answer to your question, our work today is about improving the level of coordination, collaboration, alignment among four sectors that are important for family health and well-being. But we're in particular looking at the pet families when we ask that question. That's the majority of our society. One sector is health and welfare. When we ask ourselves, is the healthcare system fragmented or is it really well coordinated? Whether you look in veterinary medicine or human healthcare, I think we find too much fragmentation, lack of coordination, and certainly these two big silos, veterinary medicine, human healthcare, are not adequately integrated. And so there is a lot of space to better coordinate in healthcare. We were just talking a moment ago about what would really happen with the patient-centric care in human healthcare if on intake people were asked if they have a pet in the home. If you want to build trust with your patient, if you want to really sort of grease the skids in having a conversation in order to provide better health care, the pet may be the ticket to improving that communication with the patient. But then, of course, also there are people who don't even get into healthcare systems because they don't have options for their pet. They don't have someone to take care of them. Or we think in terms of the seniors who would be facing isolation and loneliness and what would happen if a pet were in the home. Not everybody wants a pet, but for those who have not actually looked at that option and are open to that option, we would mitigate the morbidity and mortality around senior isolation and loneliness. So human health care could benefit just by understanding what a biodiverse family unit does for the health and well-being of humans. When we look at other infrastructure areas from, and I've mentioned housing and transportation as examples, what happens when a family is broken up for whatever reason? Well, there's a trauma, and that trauma definitely imparts something that is not health benefiting. If that member that's lost is the pet due to relinquishment to a shelter, because housing is not secure unless the pet is absent, we can do better. We can do better. Excuse me, when we think of other areas, and I will not continue to go down this road, but just simply saying our infrastructure can be improved that would better support pet families who make up the majority of the community. And by doing so, it lowers costs in healthcare. It lowers costs when we are dealing with families that are breaking up, and so on and so forth. So here are the three things that we're doing to bring that about. We have a strategic mission that involves a One Health Forum, which was established in August of last year. It now has more than 8,000 members. We're continuing to work to diversify it so that we have more human health care, social service, public health, lawyers, health economists, and across the board um, to engage in an exchange of ideas on a forum. We will be launching a journal to be announced later this year, the Journal for One Health Society, aligning families, pets, and essential care systems. It will be a landing place for scholarly work, whether it's researching innovative ideas about collaborations or new clinical procedures that are actually translational to humans and the non-humans, or educators, so that we start to have a go-to place in this world for people to find this cross-sectorial, cross-sectional, interdisciplinary scholarly material. And then thirdly, launching an annual One Health Society Summit. We will be announcing that at this year's American Public Health Association conference in Washington, D.C. And the inaugural summit will occur at the American Public Health Association meeting next year. It will be a recurring annual event. And again, the intent is to bring together a cross sector group of people who see at the heart of the work the core being the pet family and whether they are in fact enjoying support that they need with essential services and care.
You said so much that was so impactful to me because it's not necessarily dismissing those who don't have pets. If you don't have a pet, we support that. That's everyone doesn't have to have a pet. But pets do matter, name of the podcast. And if in fact pets matter, there are a lot of things that people avoid doing because they can't take their pets with them. I mean, we just did I think it's what, the 10th or 20th year from Katrina, where people lost their lives because they didn't want to leave their pets behind. And the amount of change that happened in FEMA post Katrina with respect to pets was unbelievable and so quick, and everybody collaborated. So what you're talking about, which I think is awesome, is that we're taking it that step further to really communicate with everyone, and whether or not you need any sort of guidance with your pets, to keep your pets with you. And what's most impactful to me in my practice, I work with trust and estate attorneys to have them ask, do you have a pet? They sometimes don't even ask if you have a pet. Some of the more enlightened trust and estate attorneys do, but some of them don't. And then they don't realize that you can't just put the plans for the pet in the will, because then the person has to die. And if all their plans are in their will, then the care of the pet doesn't come to fruition if they have a stroke, if they become
Yeah.
injured, if they're undergoing chemotherapy, if they have dementia. So those plans don't come to fruition. So I educate the trust and estate people. Um, Domestic violence, there's a huge discussion now, especially in veterinary medicine, on what is the requirement for veterinarians to decide whether or not an animal is suffering any sort of abuse, and is that an abusive household, just an abusive person? Who is it? There, what you're doing is you are collaborating and collecting the information that we all know is out there and helping everyone live a healthier life, with or without pets. But if you want a pet, I love that you want to keep them with seniors, because there's so many senior pets who get dropped off at shelters because their owners are seniors and nobody wants the old smelly cat or the
Yeah.
smelly dog. And yet I have a neighbor right now, you would love it. Her pet died, and in her church, there was someone looking for someone to walk their dog because they didn't want to have to get rid of it. So every morning at 7 in the morning, she gets up and drives over to this older woman's home, takes the dog out for a walk, loves up on the dog, and then comes home. Unless you ask, right? You don't know that there's somebody who's just lost their dog, but maybe can't afford to get a dog, who would love to co-own, so to speak, a dog with you. In the
Yeah.
come over and walk it. I'll come over and take it to the vet. I'll do whatever I can because you can't. But then we can share this animal. There's
Yeah.
so much to be explored
Yes.
in this venue because, as you and I both know, if you have a pet in your life, it really does create. I've just changed the slogan to Hamilton Law Mediation from solving problems to being the person your pet thinks you are.
I
Because quite
love
frankly,
that.
our pets think we're the neatest things on sliced toast. I mean, we just don't do anything wrong. And if we do, they might give us an askance look and we apologize. And then they forget it. Not like everyone else in our lives who have very long memories.
Exactly.
So I'm thrilled. So I'm loving that you told us this. We have to ask you the one question, and then we're going to continue your discussion. So, why do pets matter to you? Now, you were a veterinarian. You were the head of a veterinary college. You were a bunch of things, and now you're here. So, I'd love to know how that has informed why pets matter to you now.
Over the many years, and of course, my dad was a practicing veterinarian during my upbringing, and so I've had the honor of seeing and interacting with animals, a broad spectrum of animals over my lifetime. And there's so much that I learned personally about the world and myself, even, or gaining new perspectives about what myself should be like based on what I observed in the animal world. It never ceases to amaze me how family social units among a number of species of animals operate. And I'm not talking about just the higher forms like primates. The societies, like take a little ant that people just don't even see exist out there. And you look at their societies and you just think, man, how these beings come together and collaborate and take care of one another and so forth. And then I look at what we humans are up to, and it just is so disappointing. And so, in a larger sense, humans have a lot to learn from the animal world. And if we would just incorporate many of the lessons out of the animal world, uh, we would be a better species on this earth. That's the larger picture. When it comes down to the personal relationship, um, many clients over the years afforded me the benefit of seeing what love looks like. When you've got a person who has a dependent individual in their life, and the kind of decisions they make or are confronted with, and how they work through those oftentimes tough decisions, but the lengths to which people will go in order to um, preserve their love relationship. And one might say, well, there are people who they just, if something happens, they just get rid of their pets. Well, we're not all the same in how we work within our love relationships. People have cultural differences and so forth. But I never stopped seeing what love looked like. And, when we think of, like you were just saying, if we could be the individual that, I'm paraphrasing you, but the individual that our pet sees, what would that do for me personally? Maybe I'd be a little bit easier on myself, the way I can be so hard on myself for screwing up, for, you know, whatever. The pets live in the moment. We did that as very young humans. And along the way, we lost the ability to be present in the moment. And there's a lot still to be said, all this mindfulness stuff and um, tapping into your higher self and all. It's about being present in the moment. So I could go on and on about why I think we humans as a species not only benefit, but we absolutely need animals, and animals need to be respected for being the sentient beings that they are as well.
I know it's amazing to me that some areas still believe that pets are property, and a number of my colleagues in the law feel that way. And I sit there and I go, first of all, do you have a pet? And if you do you think it's your car? And no, you don't. So it really isn't property. Maybe it's a higher form of property, and maybe changing its status will have a ripple effect that we'll only find out if we change their status. Yet, should we not change their status because of the ripple effect, or should we change the status so that we can recognize that in our human lives, these animals have brought such.
I'm thankful I live in a country of laws. Laws make things better, is my sense, and the regulations and public policies that flow from those laws. As black and white as laws can be, unfortunately, laws are not always guaranteed to be in sync with where society is. So the law says personal living property, and it's not the government's role to take care of your personal living property and so forth. Don't use my tax dollars for Deborah's plants at home. But you know what society has done? It's moved past that because society says, nope, screw the law, we're going to lock you up because you abuse that individual. It's your personal living property, you said, under the law. Sorry, dude, you're going to jail. You're going to be fined because we don't tolerate that behavior toward these individuals in our society. So even though we've not put a name on it and
We're
codified it,
respecting it.
our society has already recategorized these individuals called companion animals or pets because they're family members in our communities.
And they make our lives whole. It was Roger Karras who said they may not be our whole life, but they make our lives whole.
Whole.
That is absolutely right. I know that without the dogs that have passed through and left their paw prints on my heart, I
Mm,
would be a different person. Every single pet changes your life.
yes.
When friends and loved ones and colleagues lose a pet, I always say this is the worst day of your life. Absolutely. However, looking back, you wouldn't have wanted to miss the adventure.
There you go. You say such powerful words. I need to hang out with you more. Maybe I'll
Well,
learn
you
a
will.
few
I hope
things.
so. It's so important that people are beginning to codify or to congregate and speak about it in a way, hopefully, that they're listening to everyone. Because in domestic violence, they're talking about animals. In trusts and estates, they're talking about animals. In criminal law, they've always talked about animals for animal abuse, but now they're going, a little bit further and really you don't have to really almost kill the dog to be charged with animal
Yeah,
abuse, which is really groundbreaking. Uh,
yeah,
and so in our world where we care for our humans, I mean, and I know that Meals on Wheels, what, 25 years ago, said that half the people who they dropped off food for gave it to their pets as well. And it was like, I should have had a V8.
yeah.
How did we not realize that we needed to provide food for the care of their pets? And I loved that you said, our older people, in order to want to get out of bed in the morning,
Oh, yeah,
if they have a cat, so it's a little easier with a cat,
yeah.
a little more physically challenging for you to have a dog. However, maybe that's what you need. So you get out of the house. I know I have two dogs, and walking them every morning, I have to walk them every morning because they say, hey, hello, stop, get out of bed. We got to go for a walk. But that keeps us, really physically active in at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm counseling people whose parents are getting older or who have pets, I have a plan called the MAP plan, navigating the journey your pet takes when you can't care for it. And in it, you take the time to decide what's going to happen to your pets when you're, our age. Because when we're older, then our family takes over and nobody can take the cat because it's smelly or the dog, that's whatever. And if you plan for it before you need it, then when it happens, it gives people guidance on what you wanted to do with your pet. And so, like you said, if you take these pets away from older people, their ability to um, rebound from losing this animal is really compromised. I'm sure you've seen that where older people
Yeah.
have their pets taken away because they're either going into assisted living or they're going to live with a family member and their dog doesn't get along with the other dog or whatever it is. And you're sitting there and you're going, oh my God, this is going to be traumatic for those people. And I work with the National Dog Show Therapy Dog Symposium. These therapy dogs provide so
Hmm.
people who've lost their pets. And
Hmm.
we've created this bond where someone who is willing to share their pet because their pet loves it as a therapy animal has been incredibly impactful.
Hmm. Hmm. I think we all want to be affirmed, even liked as a species. And when you have done your years of service to this society and now you're in your later years and, you know, society kind of casts you aside and you're just not on the radar anymore. It's so important to have a pet for those who, again, would like that option to affirm you still, even though society has moved on. I mean, family often, won't communicate with you. You're just lost out there. And so, does it undermine our health and well-being, both physically and mentally, when we are cast aside? And I mean, when we really drill down into this, we don't have to work real hard to understand why that social unit is still important. Um, Speaking of families that don't have pets, a story just recently happened from a focus group work we were doing with a assisted living community. But at any rate, crusty old codger who just was notoriously known for being this very difficult person, and people would avoid him because of he's just always having a bad day. They established a little exercise area for dogs, and the residents could go out and go into that area. And lo and behold, this guy started standing at the fence. He wasn't one of those people with pets, and he would stand out there every day and watch these pets interacting and the people. And the guy got transformed, became the nicest person. Now, who knows? Maybe there was something else going on in his world, but no one could connect anything other than the fact that he was drawn to that. And this is the impact the animals had on a person who does not have one. So when I think of our communities at large and these opportunities to take a step back and say, well, in what ways are these individuals in our community able to help us be better humans, even if I don't live with one? There's a lot to be explored there. Things that we just don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And until we choose to look and seek those opportunities to improve our communities, we won't. One other thing I should mention, society has shifted due to generational changes. So when we look at Gen Zs, and I suspect Gen Alpha will be similar, uh, the decision to live with pets far exceeds previous generations. And so if we're talking about having healthy communities, and our communities are made up of these units, these social units, these biodiverse family units, then it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see where the misalignments are and where future work is needed. I think the laws and public policies, well, no, the laws will catch up with where these changes need to occur. That's not unusual. The laws are not the first thing that changes. It's the need that's been identified, and public policies start to be implemented, but eventually some things get codified to,
Studies change what goes on. They just
yeah,
need to do studies because remember, Michael, you and I are you're probably younger than I am, but
I
it
don't think so. I'm much older than you.
I don't think I'm older than dirt. But remember when we were younger, there was no degree in human animal bond. I mean, we all knew it anecdotally that if you pet a dog, you felt better. And now look at what has exploded at the University of Denver at Green Chimneys, where they have used, Aubrey Fine started the pet therapy and it's taken off. Uh, we are learning so much. And I think one thing I would love to ask you about, I think that we are appreciating our animals more than just being beings, but rather appreciating what they bring to the table because it is making our lives whole.
The Pew Research Center and others do national surveys, and the families with pets at 97% are saying they're family members. I don't think these people are confused about the word family nor member. The society is saying to us who these individuals are. And if people are choosing, and let's just deal with this so-called elephant in the room, you'll know what that term means. I had to remind myself in speaking to these younger generations, they probably don't even know what I mean when I say that. But you, yeah, well, if you can't afford a veterinarian, you shouldn't have a pet. And Deborah, the thing that is so unfortunate about that statement, as logical as it may be,
Absolutely.
the relationship is not the problem. It's the lack of systems to support such relationships. Or to put it another way, well, who signed you up to be able to tell people who they can have as family? I mean, do we really want to do that? We don't want to do that. I don't.
And like that crotchety old man, right?
Exactly.
How can we not enable him to live his fullest life because he can't afford a pet?
Yeah.
Maybe he's living, looking over the fence. Maybe he'll open the gate and go in. Maybe some of his colleagues will allow their pet to say hello to him. And he doesn't have to own the pet. But if he does own the pet, what can we do to help that keep him and others healthy, because pets don't just love their family. I mean, my English Cocker Spaniel really only loves my husband. She likes me, but she really only loves my husband. You know what? She gives me love. She gives me attention, and we shouldn't really dictate that. I 100% agree with you. And there are ways to find the means to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it earlier about shared ownership, I believe in the story that you shared, which was a great one. The benefits to humans definitely transcend those only who live directly with the pets. This world has more of those kind species than us humans. I mean, vastly more. It wouldn't be a healthy world without what the animals do on this planet. We talked about the ants before, but how many people really don't appreciate what bees are doing?
Oh my God. I was
Oh,
going to say, wait, what about the bees?
and or we walk out of our dwellings and the birds are actually background noise or just not consciously perceived as being there. And and yet the energy, when we think of the energy that animals embody, um, and the fact that we are energized beings ourselves, we, we should never think that we're isolated from the world. And if the energy fields are merging in various ways, it's either a positive thing or a negative thing, but by most metrics, there's a positive outcome with the merging of our energy with the animal species. There are exceptions, of course, but
Absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking that there are times when people maybe shouldn't have animals because they haven't really had the emotional security themselves in their own human family
yeah,
to necessarily understand what a pet might need from them.
yeah,
But I'm not sure that that can't be overcome and taught
exactly.
and maybe help the person overcome the trauma that they experience that disables them from understanding the difference between love and pain and things like that. It's, it, I think it's, for me, sometimes we carry some bias into the room, and I'm always biased in having people have a pet because I think you're better for it. Uh, and there's the bias that's like, well, maybe you aren't necessarily in need of a pet, but like the Braccio man, he lived vicariously, and maybe that's where you start. So
Yeah,
love what you're doing. I love what the association, the One Health Forum is doing. I mean, these are things that we know better now, so we need to do better.
yeah, yeah. That's well put. Yeah. Another way to put it, when we think of the costs of bringing about more aligned collaborative systems, we must ask ourselves, well, what are the costs if we don't do that?
To human
And
animals.
yeah, well, there are external impacts that don't get measured. So when that person who uh, is subject to act out or whatever because of the background, like you were just sharing, um, and that goes unmet by any means, well, there's going to be a societal cost associated with that being untreated, unaddressed. If the pets represent a certain expense to addressing that, how does that compare with, well, we got the criminal justice system and we've got some of these other mechanisms that we've set up. Are we really being smart about this?
I agree. I agree 100%. Michael, we could talk for like hours, and I can't believe that we're at the end. Please let everybody know where they can learn more about the One Health Forum and the One Health Group and how they might be able to support you and your work. Because for me, it's something that I'm going to really hope to participate in more fully, because in having these conversations, the people have to have their opinions protected. It doesn't mean I agree with you, but I can acknowledge and appreciate how you feel. And in that traveling that road, help
Yeah.
people get to the next place. So how do they get in touch with you?
The best thing would be to go to the program for Pet Health Equity website, and that's at pphe at utk.edu. Program for Pet Health Equity, PPHE at utk.edu. You should be able to find information about these various activities. We certainly encourage anyone who's interested to join the forum. You can get information on our website. It is at no cost to join the forum. And especially if you're a discipline outside of animal welfare and veterinary medicine, because we do want to see other voices, hear other voices in the conversation.
That's music to my ears because I often think that if you stay in your silo, you're missing out on the other points of view that
Yes.
can help you be better because you're all together and what is it? Groupthink, I think they call it. So it's groupthink. You're all together and you all see it this way and everything. And I talk to breeder groups, I talk to veterinarian groups, I talk to attorneys, both trust and estate attorneys, divorce attorneys, civil litigators, and they're all in their little silos. And I go, yeah, but what about this? And they go, I wouldn't talk to that person. And I said,
Mm,
well, but if you talk to that person, you might understand better why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing it, the emotion behind it, and the bias you're bringing in the room because you already identified who Michael is and you're not even going to talk to Michael. You might go, wow, I was
yeah.
wrong. And I guess that's why I don't litigate anymore because I like to help people take that moment to say, well, tell me a little bit more, Michael. And then he does. And then I understand, wow, this isn't what I thought. So I love that you've put this forum together with people to have a conversation that will help in the long run the animals. And that's why pets matter.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah, for your work and your mission. Such an important mission. Um, Keeping that conversation going and educating. Without education, we're screwed. So
Oh, I know.
thank
And
you for what you do.
how you're educating. And sometimes I know you believe this, Michael. Sometimes listening is the best education
Ah, bingo.
because I got to hear what you think because I might think you think X and then you think Y. And I'm like, holy crap,
Yeah.
no idea that's where he was going. And then you can collaborate on the next steps. But if
Yeah.
you in with a predisposed idea, I'll close with my usual story. I once spoke at a forum for a bunch of veterinarians, and I walked up and I wanted to see what would happen. So I said, hi, my name is Deborah Hamilton. I'm an attorney and I breed Irish setters and long haired dachshunds. How many of you think I'm your worst enemy? They all raised their hand. And I said, and you don't even know me. And it's because breeders have gotten so opinionated and veterinarians get really upset when breeders are opinionated and they should listen to the veterinarian, and I go, absolutely, they should listen to you. And I said the only thing they know more about than you is that line of that breed. I
That's
said,
right.
you know about Afghans for
Yeah.
based on the peer-reviewed studies. I said, but they know what happens to their dogs.
Yeah.
So I love this, Michael. Please come back. Please come back when the forum is running. If I can do anything to help get the word out there, tag me, share it with me. Until next time, everyone, kiss your pets. Why do pets matter? Because they make our lives whole. Take care.